Blue chip tight end Israel Briggs has set a June 24th announcement date. He's down to 2 schools, and yeah, Miami's one of them.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC, and writer for Canes County at Rivals. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. On this loaded Locked On Canes, can Mario Cristobal avoid the year 4 curse that many previous Hurricanes head coaches have suffered from? We'll tell you which Miami Hurricanes players are shoo-ins to be top 100 in college football this year. But let's talk some recruiting, and let's bring in a man who always keeps it a buck with us, and that is the truth teller, Bruce Warner.
There he is. Bruce, live from Crete. Wherever the hell that is.
It's a Greek island.
Yeah, I know. I know. I know. I saw you yesterday, and then you showed everybody Lepers Island, where they used to put the lepers. We should be doing a show live from Lepers Island.
We should. They had no Wi-Fi out there.
Can you go there?
Well, no, we didn't. It was really expensive to take a boat trip out to the leper colony. So I'm like, I'll just look at it from the dock. Is what I ended up doing.
Bring back some souvenirs, some bones.
Well, and the thing was, when I did a little video from there, I got a lot of my historical facts wrong, which shouldn't surprise anybody. But I mentioned that was in ancient times they kept the lepers out there. It was actually from like 1930 to 1962, so it wasn't that long ago they had the lepers out there on the island. Well, and they finally cured everybody and they brought them over to the mainland.
So what? There's nobody there anymore?
No, it's uninhabited now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's a good place to do the show then. Uninhabited. All right. So look, we're going to talk about a bunch of things. I said to you off the air, listen, I don't know how many of you guys remember Father Leo, who used to be on the sidelines for the Canes. He was like the team chaplain. He's coming on in a few weeks. I just talked to him this morning. He's got a million stories, this guy. So we'll get him on. And I'm thinking maybe we'll get Tolbert Bain back on because Ruben, his cousin, is got to have a big year this year. It's very important that Bain winds up in that top 100. So we'll talk about all that. But anyway, all right. So you want to talk about Briggs? Is that where you want to start?
I want to talk about Izzy Briggs. So everyone knows it's been well publicized. We talked about it yesterday here on Locked On Canes. Miami's been surging for the 4-star tight end out of California, 6'6", 200 pounds. He just had his official visit to Miami this past weekend. And, his comments were a lot more flattering than Calvin Russell's comments. Like it sounded like Briggs legitimately had a fantastic Miami visit. He had a scheduled visit coming up this weekend to Texas A&M. He canceled it. So he's not taking any more official visits, and he just locked in on Monday night his announcement date, and it's going to be a week from today, Bruce.
Right.
Next Tuesday, June 24th, it's going to be 6:30 p.m. Eastern time from his high school. He's going to make the announcement, and he's down to just 2 schools, Miami versus LSU. Now, I think Miami may lose a battle or two to LSU before this recruiting cycle is over, but they're not going to lose this one. Like I'm going to put in a Donno ball for Israel Briggs, Bruce. I think in a week's time, he's going to be a Miami Hurricane.
Yeah, he's got to gain a little weight, though. If he's 6'7", 200 pounds, but he's not going to be starting next year. He'll be here next year. But, yeah, he's got that size and athleticism. And, that's a good get if Miami gets a kid like that. They got to get him.
He's got my
understanding about Calvin Russell. I just don't have a good feeling. I just don't. Yeah. I don't know why. Maybe they weren't on him early enough. I don't know. That's the prototypical size and speed that you want, but it doesn't look like it. It just looks like he's going maybe to LSU. I don't like it, but whatever.
No,
but there's other receivers out there.
Yeah. No, well, we'll get to him in a second, but like on Israel Briggs, like you mentioned, yeah, he's a little slight of frame at this point, around 200 pounds at 6'6". But Miami believes he has the potential to gain size and become a really competent blocker. Like he shows the potential to be a good blocker. He's been a bit of like a jumbo receiver in high school, but I was going through his high school resume. This guy Briggs, he's played every position pretty much, including defensive line, linebacker. On defense, he's played quarterback, receiver, running back, tight end on offense. Like he's done just about everything except long snapper at this point. So, and he's also a really good basketball player. He's not going to try to play basketball at my, I don't think, like
Okay.
some guys might. But we know Miami from their scouting department. They really like to find guys who are multi-sport athletes because they feel like there's always good signs when it comes to some of the carryover from other sports and disciplines, and also just like the sort of, rigor that comes from playing multi-sports and the discipline that comes from that.
Yeah, when I look at Briggs, though, I look at the two young guys they have there now that just got there, the two freshmen. So those are the guys that I'm hoping have good years, or at least one of them is going to play, one of maybe shirt. So I look at Briggs, he's a couple of years down the road. So to me, it's not as big a deal than we got to get Derek Cooper. I'm not sold on Mallory anymore. I think he may be heading to Alabama, but
Maybe.
they had but Jay Lamar, wow, this kid had a great visit. And I agree with you. I think if we get Cooper and Lamar, I'll be really, really happy. Really happy. And that's something we need to get. Everybody keeps talking about D linemen. We could talk about that in a while if you want. There's a few out there we're in the mix for. But yeah, I'm excited about where this is going. And I did some research about Notre Dame, and I think they have 9, maybe 10 starters out of 22 coming back. What makes them so great? Everybody, all the podcasts, they're favored. They're going to beat Miami. Really? I don't have Miami's defense in my vision because haven't seen them play yet.
Right.
But at night, at home, here, first game of the season, Beck's debut at home, that place will be rocking. With a redshirt freshman quarterback who's never taken his snap for Notre Dame, I like our chances in that game. I don't think they're not returning everybody, where I'd be nervous about it. I'm not nervous. They lost a lot of people,
Well, and one thing I know you are a little nervous about is Calvin Russell, the 5-star receiver. He did just take his Miami official visit this past weekend, but the trends for the Miami Northwestern star, the trends recently have really been in LSU's direction before his July 5th announcement. And, Bruce, I talked about, Israel Briggs he was raving about how great he thought his Miami visit was. But if you go through the comments from Calvin Russell, with his the first part of his comment to Inside the U after his visit was, it was a nice visit. I got to know Miami a little better, have fun a little bit, had a decent amount of fun, decent amount of information. Like if you're leaving that as a Yelp review, that's a 3-star review. Like it's not like, I was blown away, amazing service, amazing food. Like, that sounds like a 3-star review.
He reminds me of Jeremiah Smith, that you could try and try and try, but darn well he's not coming. And that's how I feel. You don't get the feeling that if he was really that open about it, you're right, he would have been more expressive, but he wasn't. So he said some nice things, but nice isn't what you want. You want great. You don't want nice. It doesn't look. There's other receivers we're after. I don't know how good this kid's going to be. He might be good, but look, we have Josh Moore. I'm really excited about him. He's the same size. I don't know if he's as fast, but I want to see him develop. We took him from the Gators. So again, I'm not going to put all my eggs in Calvin Russell's basket. For what? They have enough talent in this state and all over the country to get some receivers that'll meld. And then you've got young quarterbacks that we're going to have. Coleman, who will be here, and we have Luke Nickel, who is here. And so, to me, I'm just looking ahead. I can't worry about one guy who gives a 3-star review. You say I'm worried. I'm not worried about him. Really, we can get guys that'll be just as good, if not better. Not worried about him.
Yeah, no,
right?
I'm with you. Well, you mentioned some of the current players, and we really feel, Bruce and I, that Miami could end up being better, at least a more well-rounded team in 2025 than they were in 2024. I was asked, every Locked On College host was asked to fill something out last week. Nominations for the programs we cover. I obviously cover Miami. Our guy Brandon Olson covers the Gators. Brian Smith covers the Seminoles. We were asked to submit nominees for guys who could finish the upcoming season as top 100 players in college football. Let's talk about who the shoo-ins are and who the bubble guys are from Miami when we come back. You want to keep it locked right here on a Truth Teller Tuesday. Got Bruce Warner with us. I'm Alex Donno. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. I'm only getting started with Game Time. Folks, this is really exciting. As you know, Game Time is the only ticket app that I use. And we've been talking about Game Time for years, how the prices go down the closer you get to the event. I mentioned yesterday, 24 hours ago, we were looking at tickets in the $900 range for Game 6 between the Florida Panthers and Edmonton Oilers. I am now, on Tuesday, looking at tickets starting at $740 for Game 6 between the Cats and the Oilers. This is the game the Panthers could very well clinch their second straight Stanley Cup. So you see that the prices are going down. They always go down on the Game Time app. And guys, find out what makes this app so amazing. I was just on the app, the zone deals. They were offering 10% extra off exclusive zone deals for the FIFA Club World Cup as well. There's plenty of that going on in Miami. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create your account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege and get $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. So, Bruce, I was at the leper colony yesterday.
I know.
Today, yeah, I was on. We went to this mountain, which was allegedly the birthplace of Zeus in Crete. Yeah, so this was on top of the birthplace of Zeus. There was also a cave there. Took some photos of the cave. So I'm seeing all sorts of historical stuff out here. And with all of my archaeological expertise, I was able to confirm that mountain somewhere in Crete was the birthplace of Zeus. We'll probably see some more cool stuff tomorrow.
Did you run into Jason and the Argonauts?
That went over my head.
It's a movie from the 1960s. It's great. Yeah. It's got to do. Yeah, it's got to do. I think Zeus is in there, and it's this guy who's I think they murdered his father or something, and it's one of those Roman pictures. But it was a great, and Ray Harryhausen does a lot of the stuff. It's science fiction, but Jason and the Argonauts, one of my favorite movies in my entire life. Great movie, really good movie. Anyway, so you're out in the middle of nowhere. You stay away from Tehran because that place is on fire. It's bad.
I was not planning on going to Tehran. Just so you know, that was not in my travel itinerary.
I don't think that you can get in anymore. Everybody's escaping because
that's not a place I had any desire to go to. Prior to making my trip plans.
Well, yeah, I know. And Israel's a mess too. I think I'd rather go to Newark. It's less dangerous.
Yeah, well, we're going to be here. It seems pretty safe in the Greek islands. We'll be here for another couple days, and we're going back to Italy, and then eventually, sometime in July, I will be back in the good old U.S. of A. Covering Miami practices and all that. So, all right. So, Bruce, I was given the exercise of nominating Miami players that I think will be top 100 in college football by the end of the season. Let me first give you.
Who did you?
Here, okay. So the first name that I had 100% confidence in filling out, I think he's going to be a first round draft pick and obviously a top 100 player, and that's Francis Malaenoa at right tackle.
Right.
Zero hesitation. Francis CC is a top 100 player. Yep. The second name that I filled out was actually Ruben Hurricane Bain. He's been getting from the draft people Bain's been getting some love. I know that statistically didn't have a great season last year, but he missed almost half the season with a calf injury last year. He still managed 4 sacks and put up good PFF numbers last season, but despite the fact that he was nursing a hamstring all year long, I think Bain is healthy now. He's actually dropped some weight. I think he tried to play a little too heavy last year. To me, Ruben Bain is another one who could be a first-round draft pick, hopefully first round, I think second round at worst. That's a top 100 player. Like, no hesitation, Malaenoa and Bain. People are going to clip this and they're going to argue this because this guy's getting so much hate. But I think Carson Beck has a good shot, Bruce, to be a top 100 player. What do you think?
I agree with that. Yes, I do. I think, look, he threw for 3,500 yards last year. Anybody says he was bad, he wasn't bad. He didn't have a lot of help, and he made a lot of mistakes. You know, sometimes you make mistakes when you're trying to force things, when your team is behind. They didn't destroy teams last year. So I think this year, look, I've mentioned the defense. You just mentioned the balance on offense and defense. If our defense is better and they take the ball away, he's going to have more opportunities for cheap scores inside the 50-yard lines rather than last year when Cam had to drive 75, 80 yards almost every time because the defense couldn't stop any. How many 3-and-outs were they last year with our team on defense? Not that many. So, yeah, I think Beck is, I would say, he's not a shoo-in, but he's pretty close. I would say, you know, he's going to play in a couple of big games this year, right off the bat. Notre Dame, right? And then the Gators in game 4, he's beaten them before.
Twice.
So he's not, you know. All right, you have anybody else that could be in there?
Yeah, so
I'll give you another name. I think Mark Fletcher could be in there.
That was my next name.
If Mark has a big year, listen, I expect Lyle to do a lot of spectacular things, but I think with Fletcher losing some weight, he could be a stud like he was in high school. I think he can go 700, 800, 900 yards this year, maybe 8 or 10 touchdowns. I expect him to be a stud. He could make it.
I think the only thing that could hurt Fletcher's cause of being a top 100 player is statistical bias. If the other running backs are like, if all 3 or even 4 Miami running backs have really good years and the carries are limited, like I think Fletcher is going to lead Miami in rushing touchdowns. I said this yesterday. I think Lyle might lead the team in yardage because he's a bigger chunk play potential. I'm also not sleeping on Marty Brown and even Chris Wheatley-Humphrey, who I thought had a really good spring, and he's put on some size. And then Gerard Pringle might get some burn as a true freshman. So I think the only thing that could keep Fletcher out of the top 100 is just a lot of the people who vote on that stuff may not actually watch the games. They might just look for, which backs had 1,200 yards. Like, if he doesn't get that, it's probably because other guys are taking yards away from him.
Yeah, it's hard to be a 1,000-yard rusher when your backup is just as good, if not better, although they're different. They're 2 different styles. So, yeah, you could have Lyle run for 3 yards and 8 yards and 2 yards and then go 94 yards on a play like he did last year, and he just turned the corner, he was gone. So, yeah, you're not going to see Fletcher go 80 yards unless he gets right up the gut and he takes off. But I think he's got a shot at it. On defense, who else could it possibly be? I don't know. I don't know about Messidor. You know, I don't know. That would be tough for any of the defensive guys.
I'll give you another nominee. If assuming he's fully physically good, Mohamed Touré, the linebacker from Rutgers who transferred in, I think he's got an opportunity. I think either OJ Frederick or Xavier Lucas. I think have really good years to cover corners.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. All right. Well, I mean, to me, I don't really care who does what. I really don't. I'm very excited about that Notre Dame game. I just can't wait already because it's 2 months plus out. And again, I looked at all these magazines and I'm looking at old Notre Dame this and Notre Dame that. And what do they rank 7th in the nation? You know, I think
if not higher. Depends on where you look.
Rated higher than us too now. For what? What did they do? We destroyed them last year. You know, they have some good players. They're good. They're playing down here. Yeah, you're right. A lot of the Gator fans are mouthing off, but They forget that they haven't beaten Carson Beck yet.
Now, the last thing on potential top 100 players, do you think we're going to get a pass catcher in there? Because dark horses, I think dark horses to make that top 100, Elijah Lofton, who's going to wear a lot of hats on that offense. And I would even say JoJo Trader. He blew me away in spring with how good he was.
Yeah, it could be those two guys. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, top 100 though. There's not that many. You know, you're so many great teams.
I know.
Three or four from each team. So, look, I think I'd rather have them top 25 in the ACC, to tell you the truth. And which brings me to another point that I want to talk about. Everybody keeps talking about getting into the playoffs. Well, that's great, but I want to win the ACC. I want to, and it seems that the only way we do that is if we beat Clemson. So technically speaking, we could lose to Notre Dame and the Gators and still win the ACC if we play Clemson and we beat them. We're going to be in the playoffs. But if we lose Notre Dame, Florida, and Clemson, do I think we're in the playoffs? Probably not. So, we got to win one of those two at the beginning, and we're going to have to beat Clemson to get in there. That's what I would say. I don't really know everybody else's schedule, but we don't play Clemson.
Yeah.
So, they're supposed to be a powerhouse. They're in the top 5, top 6. They have a lot of guys coming back. And it's interesting how they were pretty bad a couple of times. Not bad, but not great. But now they're a powerhouse again. I where it came from, I don't know. But Miami's got to develop these guys that we're counting on, like Scott, right? I mean, they brought in Blay. He's supposed to be a guy that can get up the field, and Bain and Messidor will go as those D tackles go. And that's critical. And we don't know what Scott can do. He didn't play much last year. They're talking about him, that he's improved, but improved to do what? I have never seen Blay play. I know Moten is good. Moten got better last year, and I expect better things out of him. And then there's some other guys that they're talking about that could come in there and play. But, the linebacking situation, I haven't really seen much out of Basaint in the 3 years he's played. He's done some things, but then he's had some bad games. So he's another one. He's a seasoned veteran. If Toure is as good as you say he is, that's a major help for this team, because you need coverage out of the backfield. How many times last year did teams turn the corner on us? Goodbye. And that can't be. We have to be able to stop the run and then take off on the quarterbacks, which I expect with this new defensive coordinator.
Well, everything you're talking about, I think, is a perfect tie-in, because we need to see development at certain position. Guys who've been on the team for a couple of years, young players, second, third year, who are going to get opportunities to be starters this year, important backups. And we need the stars to align for Mario Cristobal to do something that a Miami coach has not done in about 2 decades, and that's have a successful 4th season as head coach. Every year, things have trended up a little bit. Second year, Miami goes from 5-7 to 7-5, and then third year 10-3. So we need to keep the trend moving upward. History is not on Cristobal's side, but I think he can break through this alleged curse. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on Locked On Canes. Thank you for making up your first listen and your first watch today. For your next listen, check out Locked On ACC. We're going to have a new episode later on today. Kenton Gibbs and Brian Smith, they're going to join me. Going to talk everything Atlantic Coast Conference. We're actually going to do some Florida State preview. So, Bruce, you want to make sure to check that one out. Brian's going to tell it like it is. He'll tell it like it is on Florida State. I appreciate his honesty. He's not as much of a truth teller as you are, because nobody is. But I appreciate Brian Smith's honesty there. So I was shout out to Matt Shodell of Kane Sport for posting some of these stats. All right. So you look at Miami coaches, head football coaches for the past, 20 or so years since Larry Coker, because Larry Coker actually had a pretty successful 4th season. Things came off the rails after that. Miami went 9-3 at Coker's 4th year. So Randy Shannon, in his 4th year as head coach at Miami, went 7-5. He was fired before the end of the season.
Right.
Al Golden went 6-7. Remember, he got blown out by Clemson 59-0. He didn't make it to the end of that season. Mark Richt actually stepped down after his 3rd year and retired. Manny Diaz went 6-7 his 3rd year and got fired. So it's been about 20 years, Bruce, since a Miami head football coach had a successful 4th season. I think this time around, I think the Hurricanes have the talent and the alignment when it comes to the athletic department on down to the coaching staff, and they're investing in football. I think Mario Cristobal is going to break that year 4 curse.
Well, I don't know who the quarterbacks were in the 4th year for those, or the 3rd or 4th year, but I think Beck is pretty darn good. So I'm much less concerned. I don't think Mario's concerned. I say this. I still say the Notre Dame game is the springboard for the whole season. We're not playing a chump team. We played the Gators last year. We beat them. We were 9-0, and then the wheels fell off. They were falling off before that anyhow. I don't see it falling off. And I said to you a month ago, and I'll repeat myself, I really think this is the best coaching staff that Mario has brought in. He finally has the combination of experience and youth and guys that relate to these players. And I can tell you that these kids are 100%, they've all bought in. Now, if the defense is as good as I think it's going to be, and it's just my opinion based on all my conversations with all these former players that I've had on the show, and then more, the aggressiveness, the attack, the simplicity of go after this guy and be aggressive, much better than all the thinking and guys were misreading plays and guys were wide open, and and the communication, which you keep hearing that word, so important. It's more simple now. And the defensive line, without all the stunts and all the other crap that they were doing, it's going to be much better. I think the defense is going to be a lot better. I trust the offense will be good. Will it be as wide open and as wild as when Cam was here with all the incredible plays he made? No. He's so unique. His skill set is so unique that it's hard to repeat what he's done. But it doesn't mean that Beck still can't throw for 40 touchdowns. Sure, he could. 35, he could. I think so. Look at the weapons he should have. Lofton, I think they can put him anywhere in the field, and he's a mismatch. So, I think we're going to beat Notre Dame. I'm not that worried. I'm more worried about the Gators, to tell you the truth.
Ooh.
No, I am, because they've got last year's game on their brain. How we beat their brains in, and I look, Florida, to me, Notre Dame is the key game. We win the first game against Notre Dame, last year's national champ, runner-up on national TV at night, and its stadium's rocking. Yeah, then we play 2 teams we should beat. Then we play the Gators. We get by them. We have a week bye before we have to go to Tallahassee. I'll take our chances with a week off, getting ready to go up there. Of course I will. So, but we got to beat Notre Dame. That's how I look at it. We got to beat Notre Dame. And I think we will.
Now, you said earlier you want to win the ACC.
I want to win the ACC.
A lot of Miami fans agree. You want to beat Clemson, win the ACC championship. But let me ask you, where would you draw the line for a successful season? Like, do you have to win the ACC to call it a success, or you come in second place in the ACC, make the playoff? Like, do you draw the line at playoff, ACC championship? What would you say would be a disappointing season in your eyes?
Not winning the ACC like last year and not getting into the playoffs. That's bad. So if we lose to Clemson, but they put us in there anyway because we're 11-1 or 10-2 and we get into the playoffs, I'll be okay. I would be okay with that. That's a success because it's a step up. But to make neither, like last year, unacceptable. And if we lose to Notre Dame, Florida, and Clemson, then that's not successful either. We should be able to beat at least 1 or 2 of those teams.
Yeah.
I don't see what's so great about Notre Dame. They got destroyed by Ohio State. Not to say that
They
we could
did.
have beaten Ohio State last
Right.
year,
Yeah, exactly.
but still, they got killed.
Yeah. They sure did.
And they lost their quarterback. They do have a great running tandem, though, but so do we.
They do, yeah.
People,
Yeah,
they do.
Jeremiah
We're
Love is
really
really
good.
good.
And that's
Yeah,
where those
yeah.
D tackles are going to make a big difference. If these guys get blown out by Notre Dame because we can't stop their run, then I expect this entire season to look the same as last year. We've got to be able to stop Notre Dame's and put the quarterback with his first start in the spotlight. Make him beat us at night at home.
By the
Now,
way,
I'm a
I was
little
just
early on my
notified.
predictions because we're months away, but still, you know,
Yeah.
I'm fired up about this game. Plus, I hate
I know
Notre
you
Dame
are. I
to
can
begin with.
tell.
I don't like
Well,
Notre Dame anyhow.
It's gonna be two of the best offensive lines in the country. I mean, and I'm excited because I think Miami's O-line is getting slept on by a lot of people because
Yeah,
I see them instead of being ranked like top 3, where I think they should be. They're getting, are they 8th best, 11th best offensive line? Notre Dame's offensive line is being ranked like top 2 or 3 by everybody. I think Miami's offensive line is going to show that.
I'll tell you another guy who's not going to make the top 100 that could really raise his stock this year and get into the NFL is Bell, because that guy's he's a big dude. He's bigger. He's bigger than Bryant McKinney, who we had on a few weeks ago. So if he has a good year this year at left tackle, that's a highly rated position. He could put some money in his pocket. You know, he's a big guy. So he's one guy that people sleep on.
Inez Cooper is another one. Inez Cooper, I think, is going to be an NFL player.
Yep. And, you know, I don't know about the center, but he seems to be adjusted already. He's only been there a little while. But, you know, so look, I'm excited about the season. I'm not worried about the recruiting yet, but I don't want to lose all these guys. You know, I really want Derek Cooper, and I'll be thrilled if we can get Jay Lamar. We're going to get another receiver no matter what. I know we are. I want one of those D tackles, and then I'll feel. And of course, we want Colajay. Obviously, we want him.
Yeah. By the way, before we run here, I was just notified. I was actually I received a text from my good friend, who you also know, Bruce Rudy, who's the former Sebastian the Ibis.
Right.
Sebastian he's in the college, the mascot Hall of Fame. Sebastian the Ibis, long overdue. He's been inducted or at least selected for the mascot Hall of Fame. So congratulations to Sebastian.
Oh, it's Sebastian. It's not necessarily Rudy.
Yeah.
It's just
no,
Sebastian
not Rudy specifically, although he was Sebastian for 4 years or 5 years even. But no, Sebastian is now in.
Okay, well, that's great. We got somebody in there. He's in the College Hall of Fame and Sap's not? Wow.
Yeah, I think it's different. I think it's the mascot Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah, well, whatever.
Hold on. Sebastian the Ibis.
He is a famous mascot.
Yeah, he is. I think he's one of the all-time greats. Sebastian.
I mean, you look at Florida State. They have the guy that comes on Renegade, the horse, but you don't see him during the game that often.
No, not really.
You see Sebastian constantly.
Okay, yeah, it's official. So Sebastian has been inducted into the Mascot Hall of Fame.
All right.
He's the first mascot from Florida in the Mascot Hall of Fame. So how about that, Bruce? There's no Renegades not in there. That ugly
Gator
alligator.
not in there?
Nope, not in there.
All right,
Sebastian
good.
is.
I knew we were better than those two schools.
Amen to that. Well, we appreciate everyone for tuning in. Thanks so much to the Truth Teller for bringing it strong. As always, make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe to Locked On Canes. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your pods, YouTube, of course. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Or maybe I might have to take tomorrow off. I think I'm going from like one side of Crete to the other. And it's a much bigger island than I thought Crete was like the size of Nassau or something, but it's a very big island. So I gotta travel. It is. I gotta travel from like the east side of Crete to the west side. So if I miss you guys tomorrow, you'll see me on Thursday on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.